my first Microsoft Word video with the newer version of Microsoft Word. I'm actually using the Mac 2016, which looks hopefully the same as the one at school, Office 365. It looks awfully similar to me right now. I'm recording this at home, trying to blow it up so students who have trouble seeing can see it better. And right now I'm just going to go over some basics. Microsoft Word is a word processor. As you can see here, there's a lot of options. Many of them may be familiar to most students. This section right here, starting with Home, there's a tab, and then you can click it and hide it, open it up. There's another tab for Insert, Design, Layout, Reference, Mailings, and so forth. These are toolbars, so they give you all different options for toolbars you may need to go to, depending what you're working on. And occasionally specialty toolbars come up when you're clicking on pictures and doing things like that. Above here, you can't see it in this entire area because I blew the screen up, but you have file menus for doing save, edit menus with cut, copy, and paste, and so forth, all the way across the top. It includes another insert menu, format, tools, table, and so forth. Some of that's not in this view because I need to blow it up for some students to see better. But you can see that yourself in your own version. You have a bunch of menus up there. Some of the features can be done either from a menu up above and also down in one of the areas or one of the toolbars down here. But either way, if you hear me say toolbar, I'm talking about along here. And if you see me talk about menus, I'm talking about up here. Okay, so we're going to start with some of the most basic things. You open up a brand new Word document. You can go to the File menu, which isn't in this view here. Often you can click over here. I already have one made, so open up a new document. First thing we're going to do is do our margins. If you go to the Format menu and go to Document, this is one of the ways you can do that. Now I have mine set for 1 inch top, 1 inch bottom, 1 inch left, 1 inch right. And that's what I want the students to do for all their documents unless we decide otherwise. The gutter 0, I'm not going to go into that right from this class, but right now they're 1 inch all the way around. If yours is at, say, a 1.25 is the default, I'll just type it manually in there. You can either highlight, just type a 1 would be fine, or if you do got the 1.25, you can use little arrows and go down to 1. You don't have to type the inch marker. It knows that automatically. While you're in here, you can also get to the page setup dialog box. You can also get there from the file menu. And this is the orientation. Most of the time we have our pages up like this. If you ever have to put it sideways to make it wider, you can click here. Wide one is usually called landscape, and the tall one's oftentimes referred to as portrait. But right now we'll leave this one 8.5 by 11 inches portrait and hit OK. Okay, so that's getting our document started. We got the right margins we want. If any of the menu or toolbars or anything that is not out, you can select it. Again, I have to go just slightly outside this view area, but there's a view menu. You can catch part of it here. Make sure the ruler's set for it, and you should be in the print layout view. Again, because of the zoom in, I can't show that right now, but you can see that over here. I don't think can't move the zoom area over. But either way, go to the view menu, make sure it's on print layout, make sure it's on ruler, so you can see your ruler up here. Okay, we'll need the ruler especially when we make tabs and things like that. Right now I'm just going to start typing. This is where your cursor is, that's where you're typing. When you bring your mouse down here, that's called the I-beam. You can use that for selection, to click where you want to move the cursor around a little bit. Just a little, while I'm thinking of selection here, if you want to select a word like paragraph, you can just double click on it. If you want to select an entire paragraph, you can triple click. So I do 1, 2, 3 and selects the entire paragraph. So that's just a shortcut. You can also drag across any word you want like that. You can drag across a sentence if you like. You should be able to drag from left to right, maybe right to left too. And you can drag across the whole thing if you'd like, or if you had other things you wanted to select. Okay, I pre-typed this paragraph. We'll be using it for a few things here in a few minutes. Before we go any further, I'm going to click up here, and I'm just going to hold down the shift key. I think the basics of word processing everybody should know, so I'm not going to go over every little detail. But this here I'm just going to put Intro to MS Word. I just shortened Microsoft to MS. Word is the name of the word processor. Okay, just to review a few simple things up here, I'm going to highlight my paragraph here. Well, actually, I'll just highlight my title. Highlight my title, including the one there. I can make it bold. Just click the B. Make it italic. I can put an underline on it. If I don't want the underline, I click it again. It goes away. If I don't want the italic, same thing. I can change the font. If I want to make it a different font, maybe I want Arial rounded, I could make it a different size, make it 18 point perhaps. That's a little too big. I can always make it 14 point or whatever I want. I'm not going to go over everything here. This is just a shortcut way to make it bigger and smaller up here. A highlighter is just like you would imagine, like you took out a yellow highlighter. You can click on it and highlight it. So if you want to highlight things, you can use that. You can also turn that off by clicking in here once selected and pick no color. Oh, I have to highlight across it to turn. Oh, it worked that time. I can also highlight here and change the color. Whoops. Drag across here. For some reason, it's not highlighting easily. Okay, there it goes. Whoop. Okay, let's see what happens there. I'll just do a triple click. Okay, I click on there. It's already on red font color right here. If I click on it, it makes it red. If I want a different color and pull down, I can use one of these colors here. There's a lot of color options here. I can go to more colors, and this is an area where you got several ways you can pick your colors. You can start over here on the right with a box of colored pencils. So you can click through and pick a color you like that. I'm going to go back into here, go back to more colors. The second one over, you got a spectrum. You can click around and try out some different colors. You can see down here. Third one over has pre-made and named colors. Fourth one over got the a slider. You can select RGB and select between the red, green, and blue for your colors. And one of my favorites, just the simple, I call this a spectrum. I'm not sure what the official name is, but I could click around here, pick the exact shade of a color I want, use the sliders, click around the wheel, hit OK, and get the color I want. So that's usually what I do there. One other thing while we're here looking at the basics, there's this little funny looking button up here. It looks like a backward P. It's called the Show Hide button. If I click that, it shows symbols. All these backward P's you see is where I hit returns. Now you notice on my paragraph I don't hit return until the very end. You don't want to be hitting return at the end of each line. And as I wrote in the paragraph, I explained how that works in Microsoft Word, along with a few other things about working with paragraphs. I put this as a paragraph in Microsoft Word. Wait until the end of a paragraph until you hit return. As you type, the words will wrap onto the next line. If you are looking at another document, the wrap may be different because that document has different margins, a different font, and or a different font size. So usually while typing another document, the paragraphs will wrap differently. So don't worry about that, by the way. If you're typing and this doesn't wrap the same way as it does on your handouts, no big deal. Just wait till the end and hit return. If you're typing lines that are going to be bulleted, you hit return at the end of each line. That's going to be bulleted. That's how it knows which lines to bullet. But we will discuss that in a future lesson. Okay, right now I'm going to turn that off. We don't need to look at the hidden symbols right now. We may come back to that in the future. There's a lot of other stuff up here I'm not going to go into. There's different pre-made styles you can click on and try out. Obviously, we got all these menus. If you're going to insert something or design or layout or so forth, there's a lot of stuff there. There's a shortcut for bullets. There's alignments. I'm going to do a few quick things here with the paragraph. First of all, this paragraph was just simply typed. It was not formatted in any way whatsoever. So by default, it's single space. There's no first line indent. It just simply comes to an end. Now, there are some things you can do here. You can click here and make it centered. Click there and make it right alignment. Click here and make it justified, where it tries to line up on the left and the right evenly, but then it makes spaces between the words to do that. Usually, for starters, we'll just leave it over here on left alignment. Over here, the next one over after your left, center, right, and justified alignments up here, we have line spacing. So if you pull that down, by default, it's single space. If you want a little more space, you can go 1.15. You want to go 1.5 spaces. I use this one a lot when I want kind of the double space look, but not so far apart. And then on occasion, you might have a reason to go double space like that. I rarely have seen a reason to go beyond this. There are ways you can go beyond it or do some custom ones perhaps, but most of the time it's going to be 1.15 on occasion, 1.5 we use a lot, maybe on occasion 2. Okay, I'm going to bring this one here. Let's see, we'll go 1.15 just to give us a little bit extra space here. Now, the next thing I'm going to introduce you to is really important. It's called the paragraph dialog box. And it's actually up here on the format menu. And you go down to paragraph. Okay, and this is where you can do a whole lot of stuff. Now, you notice I highlight the paragraph first. If it's only one paragraph, you could just put your cursor in it. You don't have to necessarily highlight it all. If you had more than one paragraph, you'd highlight all the paragraphs you want to format at the same time. So what we're going to do here is we're going to take a look at the paragraph dialog box. We got alignment right now is on the left, which we did up here. You can do that right here also, left, center, right, justified. Outline, we're going to ignore that. Indentation, on the left here, this is only for indenting the entire paragraph. We do that on rare occasion. We'll do that in a future assignment, but for right now, we're not going to indent the entire paragraph. What we are going to do in indentation is go over to special, pull this down, and go to first line. Now, by default, the first line, you see down here a little preview of what it's doing. It's going to indent the first line, but it does a 0.5 inch by default, which is pretty big. So let's knock that down to 0.3. You can either use the little arrows here or just type in 0.3 in this box. So that'll give us a more regular looking first line indent. That's pretty much it for now. We're going to leave everything else the same. This is another place we could have done our spacing if we wanted to do that down here, but we'll just leave what we already selected. And we will hit OK. Now I got a nice first line indent. If I had 20 paragraphs selected, it would do them all at the same time. And it's looking pretty nice. So that's usually the best way to format your paragraphs. I'm going to deselect it. Let's say for some reason I want Microsoft Word in bold. I could highlight that, click on bold. If for some reason I want wrap in italic, I could click on that and so forth. So you can go through here and format whatever you like. Let's see, a few other basic things here. Let's see here, we got size. A lot of these we're not going to go into at this time. They don't really apply to what we're working on. So next thing I'm going to introduce you to is the print dialog box. Now, first of all, we'll save. Now you can click up here. It's kind of hidden. It looks like a little old-fashioned, maybe many of you don't know what it is, a floppy disk. You can click there. You can press the command key and the letter S at the same time. The command key is right next to the space bar, and that's a keyboard shortcut. And what you can't see here because of my zoom in is way over on the file menu, which is over this way. I can go up there and hit save. Now the first time you save, I recommend just going to save, not save as. When you do that, it's going to bring up a dialog box. It's going to look like this. Now on your computers, it might be a little bit condensed like this. Should that happen, don't forget about this button right here. Up here, type what you want it to be. I'm going to leave Intro to MS Word. I'm going to take out the spaces. I usually do that a lot. And you pick a place to save it, maybe your desktop, maybe you got somewhere else you want to save it, a folder. You can click around here. You can pull this down. But when in doubt, desktop's a good place to go. Now, they do have online locations. If you want to click this button here and go to your various online drives, OneDrive for Microsoft usually, you can do that. Most of the time you just want the standard Word document .docx, so you just leave that. There are some other formats if there is a reason you need to do that. So after you got it named and ready to go, you can go ahead and hit save. Now you've saved it once. Now say I was going to make another document that was going to be very similar. Maybe I want to use this paragraph again and so forth, but I don't want to replace the one I just saved. I can go into a save as, which again you can't see the file menu on this view, but it's just a little bit over this way on top. And I'm going to go here and do a save as. That brings up pretty much the same dialog box. Again, you can Zoom this out. Now, often when I do it, save as makes a copy. So when I make a copy, I usually give it another name. For simplicity, I'm just going to simply call this Intro to Word 2. Okay, and maybe I'm going to use this for another tutorial. I'm going to do some different things on it, but I don't want to type the paragraph again, so that's why I'm making a copy. So I go Intro to Word 2, select where I want to save it. Again, lots of options, and then I just go ahead and hit save. Now, I did the save as first, so it made a copy. So right now, what literally is open, even though it looks the same, is actually my copy. So anything I do on this right here, I'm on the Intro to Word 2 document. I'm not on the first one. If I want to go back to the first one, again, you can't see it right from here. If I go up to the File menu up on top, there's an Open Recent. There it is. You can see it popping back in here. And there's my other one, and there's other stuff I worked on recently. Okay, so if I want to go back to the first one, I'll just click on Intro to MS Word there, and it brought it over. I'm going to drag this so you can see it better, and so forth. Okay, so that's just some introductions here to Microsoft Word. That's some of the basics. I'm going to end this tutorial here so I don't do too much for the introduction. And yeah, feel free to rewatch this video or check any parts you want. One thing not in this view you can't see very well, maybe I can scroll up here a bit. Yeah, there it goes. Okay, is the bottom here. A lot of times when you're working, you might need to zoom in. You can zoom in like this, zoom in like that. Okay, depending on your preference of your view, it's down here, so you can do that. And that's a nice option right there. So I'm going to drag this here down. I usually don't have the windows go full screen. You got the red, yellow, and green up here. Green will do like entire screen. Yellow will minimize it if you want to get it out of the way. And red will simply close it. Now, red does not actually quit Word. Word is still open. Just appears to be that way. I just went to Open Recent to reopen it again. But that's just a few options there. So it takes a little getting used to, but take your time. Just click around the menus. When in doubt, try some different things. More often than not, you probably figure it out. So that's the end of this first tutorial.